really well on that one. So
Do you get many artists using your photos sometimes?
sometimes
Is that a bit of a grey area if they just grab it and use it without... Sometimes if it's like Iron Maiden, you go, you can use it, it's fine. But if it's someone not so, you're like, well, you really should credit me there. Or
you know what? There have been a lot of artists, and I think this is where I credit the metal scene quite a lot. They do see my work and they actually ask me directly for permission to share it all across the social medias. And they always say, as long as we put your copyright, that's absolutely fine. And I say, right, that's fine. You can do that. There was one instance with Anthrax a few years ago.
right.
And credit to them, they literally changed the details straight away. But it was my jump shot of Scott Ian back of Bloodstock.
Oh yes, I saw that. I did see that. Yeah,
And
he's like jumping really high.
Yes, on side stage as well, and that was absolutely spot on. I thought I didn't get it, but I did. And I posted it a week after the festival ended. And the next thing you know it, I've been getting a lot of messages going, Sab, have you seen this? I went, what's going on? And basically, they used someone else's name as opposed to mine.
Oh right.
And I went, right, I had to take action. So I directly messaged them on Facebook to say, right, this is my photo. I posted this a week ago. Can you please credit me? And within like 10 seconds, they changed it.
Wow.
And I was like, fair enough, that's
Fair
fine.
enough, innit? Yeah.
And
They must have been. Somebody must have said that's my photo when it wasn't really. I don't think
Exactly.
they would have done it intentionally, would they?
yeah, they wouldn't have done because probably they would have seen it through someone else's Facebook and go, oh, it's theirs. But when they actually get the direct contact, that's a whole different story. So as long as it's a polite word, and I'll be very happy on that. But there have been instances I've seen that they take the photo and they actually remove the credit.
Yeah. Or they crop it to if there was copyright at the bottom, they'll crop it
Yeah,
out.
they
Yeah,
will
I've seen
literally
that.
remove. I mean, I've seen it already very, very recently, and it's actually trying to take them to like a court or something like that. And it's, and even the publication, like I said, I won't go into any names because of those instances that they haven't even got in touch with him or even bothered to get in touch with him. And it just turned out into a little bit of I wouldn't say a war, but a bit of a, right, you haven't responded to my emails, I'm going to get this fine on you. And, I don't know what.
It's like ignoring a parking fine, isn't it?
Yeah, literally. And it's like, yep, this is what you need to do. You have to pay me, otherwise it's got to go to court. And this is where the discredit comes in from photographers. We do the work, but then they end up looking at it and go, oh, it's just a photo. You can use it whatever you want. But we still ask for credit, and that is
That's all. You're not asking a lot, are you?
Exactly.
Like
so,
I was always say Marmozets. They always put photos up, and they sometimes use not necessarily one of the professionals who was there. They use a crowd. If fans put one up and they've tagged the band, they'll put it up and they'll put a little picture of a camera and they'll just tag the but they'll do the same if it's a photographer as well.
Yes, they do.
Simple. That's simple. Done.
Or even some photos that are unknown to us. So, like, if someone took the photo but we don't know who it is, they always put unknown. So, if that person actually gets in touch and go, oh, that is my shot, and then that's when they can change it. So, with that, it's quite nice that we've got that facility. But I always say you just need to be careful how you use it instead of like spreading it across, because they can actually mistake it for someone else's.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. I always used to get permission from photographers because we got some, obviously yours as well, but we used to get some awesome photos, and I always make a point of like asking for some photographers, like not many, but some like a bit picky about whether they'll go, which shot is it? Like, no, I don't like that one, even if it's theirs. Other ones are just like, yeah, fine. You don't
the
even
typical
need to ask.
Beyonce shot. That's when she was like, right there, well, I'm gonna put a friggin' photo release on this. You can't do this. You can't do that. I said, well, you're the one who's performing. We take the shots. We thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I just went, well, at least that's Beyonce in her purest form rather than an all-perfect one,
I saw a photo where she had like loads of double chins.
That's it.
And then I was like, there was uproar about it. It's like, she didn't obviously authorise it, but it's like, well, you had like 40 lenses on you. I mean, what?
Then there's several other
Are you
photographers who
saying
would have
that's
took.
not real? Have they edit shop that in?
Well, we do have the power to do that. To be honest, it's like let's insert
I'm gonna
that.
add 4 chins.
Well, we could use a clone tool. There you go. So that's how we need to do, and that's
Some
it.
disgruntled photographer who didn't get what they wanted. Like, I'm gonna fuck it.
I don't blame them, to be honest. So that's our revenge, you know.
But I've spoken to some photographers. I always make a point of speaking to them if I can, if I've got time. And I've heard some stories about it can be quite brutal at some gigs like that, where it's very high pressure and you've only got a short amount of time to get your shot in, and
yes,
you're all in the sort of the same boat. And sometimes photographers are like elbowing each other out the way for the shot.
Yes, as long as we say
it's like a photographer's mosh pit. That's why.
You know what? I've had that experience as well, so that is pretty really funny. But there have been times where, oh, sorry, has my mic blown?
Yeah, sound's gone.
Yeah.
It's still recording though. I can hear the. Oh no, it's gone from there as well.
Oh, that's shite.
No, I think we're still recording.
Yeah. The sound waves are still coming through.
Things are going in. I think it's just the.
Yeah, it's that sudden explosion kind of thing. Yeah, explosions on shows.
It's coming back. It's coming. Oh, there you go. It's back.
Hey.
It's back. We're back.
Hello.
We're back. I think we laughed so hard it blew out the headphones.
Is that first time?
Yeah, that's never happened before.
Sweet. I made a record. That is awesome. So going back to your question, yes. Well, as long
photographer's mosh pit, yeah.
Yes, as long as we apologise to fellow photographers, that's all they need.
Yeah.
But there have been a few who I say that, you know, I bump into them and I say I'm sorry, but they give you just a weird look. And I'm going, right, we're both in the same position, so why are you getting moody at me for? And he must be like, 20 years older than me, but at least I have some decency. This is all about the photo pit etiquette. You need that. Because if you don't do that, then, you're just going to be like that. Oh, yeah.
If a photographer gets thrown out of a gig for fighting.
I saw one, actually. Oh, my God. I actually saw one, but this was like many, many years ago. I can't remember what the exact thing was, but I think he must have overhogged the centre of the photo pit. And there was so many
taking his turn.
Yeah, so we were like, right, can I get this shot? And he just kind of looked and he just went, fuck off. And, I'm just like, whoa, okay. And luckily, one of the guys who I was really good friends with actually noticed this, and they actually say, come on, you had your turn, get away. And I was like, thank you. And I just carried on like not everyone else is,
Hate stuff like that.
If we needed that icon shot, then, just take at least a few seconds and then just...
Yeah, because everybody's the same.
Oh, yeah.
What makes that person more important than anybody else?
Exactly. And,
Go, because I'm from Metal Hammer.
Well, I do work for Metal Hammer anyway.
Oh, yeah, you do, don't you? Yeah.
Yes. I only just did one of their shows, which is going to be in print pretty soon, actually.
Which show was it?
Zia Lanada in a church in Leeds.
Right.
So good in there. I mean, it was freezing cold because it was, of course, located in a church.
What a great setting.
It's beautiful. It was all out bluegrass, black metal, jazz, everything you could think of in that set. And the lights were absolutely insane, and the actual lights were surrounded with the stained glass window on the background.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had an absolute field day. It was brilliant.
I bet you did.
I was like, right.
Was there other photographers there?
I think there was to be about maybe another 4, I think.
Right.
But they had the same kind of like 3 songs, or whenever they got the shots that they need, they can actually go home.
Right.
But I took my opportunity to use my PhotoPass to get the shots that I needed because...
Yeah. You saved for the whole show?
Yes, I did. Not only to get the shots that I need, but to appreciate the sounds, because sometimes I haven't heard of the artist and I would like to get to know them a little bit more, and then you end up liking them at the night.
So about, are you okay to talk about what happened earlier this year? For people that don't know, because it was
if people want to know about it.
A story.
It was.
Because I've heard various things from various people, but I don't know the full. Obviously, you were there. So what did happen?
Well, it was a lovely day. It was the day. It was the day before my birthday, my 50th birthday, and so it was the 14th of May. So I'll obviously remember it.
Yeah.
And the rush had finished about 2:30 in the afternoon. So usually in that time of day, I'm kind of like preparing the potatoes for the next day. So I always bring my spuds down, wrap them in foil, and have a coffee, watch the world go by,
slow down a bit.
Yeah. And then Lynn was opposite with their ice creams, and I was just kind of like, so I was kind of looking to, I was turning and doing what I do, and then all of a sudden this car, and it was kind of it was surreal because you kind of. I've had it happen to me once before when I got knocked off my motorbike. It's kind of like, it's going to happen, and it kind of happens fast but slow. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
this was the same thing. So this car, I saw it along the pavement from sort of Shoe Zone, and it was kind of like on the pavement, flying down past Greg's and you know, Carphone
Where
Warehouse
pedestrians
and
should
that.
be.
Yeah. And it was like, what the fuck? You know, I couldn't quite believe what I
Yeah.
was seeing. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then it was kind of, so I watched it come all the way from there. It passed me, and then it kind of went behind the telephone box where I am, and then blasted through the railings. And then it hit 2 other cars. So it hit another car that was had been coming up King Street, and then that deflected its path of travel, and then sent it towards Santander.
Right.
And luckily there was a car outside Santander, and it sort of just went boom straight into the side
Right. Yeah.
of that car, because otherwise it would have just ploughed straight through
Yeah.
into, you know,
More people.
yeah. And it was kind of like, I looked up at Lynn, and I was all, what the fuck? And
Yeah.
she was all like the same back.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen what had happened to the lady Janice that had been hit, because the telephone box was in my way.
Right.
So my initial thought was that it was a terrorist attack, because obviously a lot of this had been happening recently. hadn't
Yeah.
it?
People driving on the pavement and all that. Yeah.
So I thought, you know, it's a soft target, not much of a, but nevertheless it's a soft target, isn't it, Penrith? And so I thought, right, that fucker's not getting away. So I ran from my stall towards where the car had come to a standstill,
Yeah.
thinking it was going to be some crazy terrorist in there, and I was just going to beat the shit out of him basically and get hold of him. But then there was this copper. I kind of looked behind me, as you go to cross the road,
Yeah.
and there was this copper. Suddenly, like, this cop car appeared, and these coppers, like, one had got out and was running, and he overtook me to the car. So I thought, I'd pretty much got to the monument at that point. I thought, well, that's all right. The copper will get hold of him. He'll be fine. So then I looked round then, back to sort of HSBC, and then I saw, you know, the lady Janice on the floor, and it was like, and then it was another what the fuck moment, because it was like, what?
Can't believe what you're seeing.
Yeah, because obviously she was lay there, and one leg had been torn off completely, so sort of mid thigh.
Wow.
Her other leg was in a position that your leg shouldn't be in naturally, and it was just, you know, just bizarre. You couldn't quite, you know, believe what
Like
you
a
were seeing.
dream.
Yeah, it was totally surreal.
Yeah.
So then it was almost like, you know, that, right, got to do something. So I ran back to the stall, got my gloves on, and since speaking to one of the paramedics who was in the air ambulance,
Because have you got medical training at all, or because
just
the firefighting
from the
side
fire
of things?
service, yeah. So it was that sort of fire service training that kicked in. So I went back, and because you were always told put your gloves on, so it was like I went and put my gloves on, and then it was funny because the one guy said, "You had the presence of mind after what you'd just seen
Yeah.
to go and put your
instinct
gloves on."
for you.
I said, "Yeah." So it's just like, so basically, then I ran round. People were just, there was a
Pandemonium, I'd imagine.
It was pretty much. There was an old lady, and she was kind of like at the head of Janice, and she was sort of crying and obviously mega distraught, and obviously Janice herself was crying and shouting and, you know, whatever. And then other people were just sort of looking, standing, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And because you don't know, unless you've seen and been through things like that, you wouldn't know what to do. You know, it's not like watching an episode of Casualty. It's kind of like, you know, it's real. And so I didn't have anything. I knew I had to try and stop the bleeding on the leg that had been sort of ripped off. So I got what I had. All I had was my sort of apron, my pinny that I'll wear. So I thought, right, I'll have to just tie that round. So I ran back round, got down on the floor, and then I was kind of like, says, right. I says, it's, you know, at this point, I was talking to her, and you kind of, you've got part of your training when you're in the fire service is that you have to do sort of casualty care. So even though you come across people that are in, you know, horrific sort of circumstances, you're trying to make them as calm and as, you know, it's difficult because you don't know what to say a lot of the time. But you've got to try and keep them calm, keep them awake, or, you know, whatever the circumstances might be, and keep others around you in the same sort of, you know, usually your colleagues are with you, so it's quite easy, and usually you've got a shitload of equipment as well. So,
Yeah.
but at this point, I just had an apron and a knowledge of what to do. So I tried to tie this apron round, but it wasn't big enough because it was obviously at the top of a thigh. I was trying to get it round to stop the bleeding. And then there was a girl from the Newcastle Building Society called Tasha, and she said, "Do you want a belt?" I looked up and she was there. She said, "Do you want a belt?" Turns out she's kind of got some medical training. She does something at the hospital or something. She was telling me afterwards. So I said, "Yeah, that'd be perfect." So then, kind of like all of a sudden, then we was inundated with belts. Like everyone was giving you a belt. So it was kind of like, got this one belt. She said, "Oh, it's elastic. Does it matter? Like one of them stretchy ones?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine." I said, so I then put that back round the same thigh. And I said to, at this point, I knew her name was Janice, and I just told her that it was going to hurt. And then I just sort of put it round and just yanked the belt as hard as I could to try and stop the bleeding. Then this copper come next to me, and then I said, and so I was kind of like, that was me done. I knew I had to stay there. Then there was no moving. And so I said, I looked up and I said, "You're going to have to put a tourniquet on that leg somewhere as well." So I don't know what he put on. He must have put another belt on or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And then we were both kind of... It seemed like a long time, but then more and more emergency service, sirens everywhere. More and more people started to come, and people were getting sort of blankets up and putting sort of shielding around and making it a bit more dignified,
Yeah.
So, and then I knew that she needed the air ambulance, whatever. I says,
Quick.
whatever. Yeah, there's a thing called the golden hour, which is from the point of the impact of the injuries to the time that you get onto the actual operating table in theatre in hospital is an hour. If you've any time after that hour, your chances of survival drastically reduce.
Right.
So you've got this golden hour where things need to, get moving. So this other copper then appeared, and I remember shouting at him to get on his radio and get the air ambulance. And as it turned out, it had already been, but he just looked at me like I was an idiot, and then I just told him again.
So was that because he knew it was already coming?
I don't know. Or whether he just thought I was some idiot,
right?
Civilian that didn't have a clue who was panicking. But then he eventually got on the radio and wandered off. So then eventually the paramedics turned up. So as soon as I knew that the green uniforms were there, I knew there was a fight, and I knew there was nothing anyone could do until she was in hospital. Apart
so
from
were you aware of how much time had passed at that point?
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
Wouldn't be, would you?
So it was kind of like, I remember everyone around me sort of saying, "Where's the fucking ambulance is? It's taking forever." Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, and then I remember obviously the first one to arrive must have been a car, because they've said, "Oh, they've just sent a fucking car." I was thinking, it doesn't matter what they've sent, because at this moment in time, all she needs is
transport.
Pain relief. No pain relief.
Oh, pain, right? Yeah,
so I knew that there was nothing anyone could do. Even the best doctor in the world could do nothing for her there. He had to be in, in a hospital. But all they could do was give her the pain relief that she needed to make the situation easier.
Yeah.
So then, as soon as the paramedics came, I kind of like took her, because they took over with proper tourniquets and whatever.
Yeah.
So then I sort of just, eased back, and then just sort of stood around in shock for a bit, from what I can remember. I remember going and having a look in the car to see exactly who had been driving it, and I kind of got maybe towards where Karen is with the coffee stall, to her that sort of fat area, and I looked across, and the car door was open in this Mercedes, and there was just some old geezer sat there. So I was still awake, conscious, sort of looking spaced out, like I didn't know what was going on. And then I remember Phil from the Cowper's pharmacy just coming and grabbing hold of me and sort of taking me back to the pharmacist's to wash me off, because obviously it was a summer's day, so obviously I was covered in, I just had a t-shirt on, so I was covered in blood and stuff. So it was kind of like, so he took me back there, and then got me cleaned up, and then I just kind of went back to Lynn's store, because everything, by the time I'd got back, it was just like a scene from I don't know, a disaster movie, and it was a disaster, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It was kind of like there was ambulances, there was fire engines, there was police, there was tape,
Paramedics, yeah.
there was everything. You know, the whole town has been cordoned off. It was like, and then so I just sat kind of by Oxfam. Someone bought me a coffee, and I just sat kind of, and then it kind of sunk in slowly. You know, it was kind of like, hell, what's just happened?
The adrenaline slowly wears off.
Because that's right. Because you're just running on an adrenaline at first,
Yeah.
but then it kind of wears off, and then you're kind of like,
But you've been shaking a bit, were you?
yeah, and it was kind of like, and then you get sort of tearful, and there's a whole
Shock.
yeah,
Various
there's a
emotions.
whole sort of all sorts of, and it all sort of happens, you know, one after the other. It's like a freight train rolling over you.
Yeah.
And then what was interesting was the fact that, because normally when I was in the fire service, you'd be at, you know, you'd get the shout, you'd come in, you'd get to the job, and you'd just be there for that short time, you know. So you'd do
what you've got to do, and you're out.
you would go. Whereas I'd seen this whole incident from beginning to end, so it was kind of like, it was just weird to watch. You know,
The aftermath.
Absolutely, you know. Whereas before, I wouldn't have known what had happened
Yeah.
after we'd gone. To see
Which
it all,
is probably for the best, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So it was like, I mean, and as it's turned out, everything's turned
She
out
lost both
great.
her legs, yeah.
She's since lost both her legs.
I think I saw. I was scrolling through your feed. You gave a picture of you all in the paper together.
yeah.
Like a little while after.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
She was local, wasn't she?
yeah, she was. She used to work at the Co-op apparently, for years in the butchery department. And then when the Co-op shut down, obviously she had to find another job. She was working at Jenks up at the truck stop, from what I can gather.
Right. Yeah.
So, but from all of what I've heard and seen, I've seen her a couple of times since, and it's obviously going to be a long, long road, and it's
Yeah.
going to be a roller coaster for her.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
some days you'll be up, some days you'll be down.
Life-changing moment, isn't it?
Yeah, but from what I can gather, she's got the right frame of mind, and she's kind of moving in the right direction. So fingers crossed, it'll
Yeah.
not work out right, but you
But
know, it'll
as good as it can.
Yeah, her life has
Yeah.
took a different path now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so, and hopefully, I mean, who knows what might happen? So
I know, but unbelievable.
yeah, it was just that's probably one of the. I think I can't imagine anything more surreal like that.
Literally
ever
like being in a
happening.
movie.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
kind of like weird, just like,
Yeah.
or like an episode of Casualty, but it's
yeah,
real.
Yeah,
It's like you can't
you
believe
can't
it.
believe.
And you, like you say, you don't process it at the time.
You don't.
Afterwards,
Yeah.
you go, "Oh,
And
shit, I
and
just
the
did
next
that."
day, I kind of went to work the next day, and you realise. I mean, it probably sounds a bit selfish, but you realise how close you were to.
It could have been you.
It could have been, you know.
Did you find out what happened?
There's all sorts of rumours, so I haven't heard anything. But all
It was
I
an
heard,
elderly driver, wasn't
it was
it?
a 90-year-old man, and apparently he was in his wife's car. And from what I've been told, it's not official, but his leg somehow got, because it was an automatic car. That's why it seems as if it was a terrorist attack, because obviously he put his foot on the accelerator, his leg had somehow jammed.
Right, so a leg
that, and
spasm or something.
Yeah, so something had happened to make his leg lock onto the accelerator, and obviously an automatic car changes gears, doesn't it, automatically?
Right.
So that's why it was getting faster as it was going along.
It was just naturally going up the gears, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and that's why it seems as if it was some sort of, because to me it seemed like it was a determined effort
To go in a certain-
because there was no deviation, and that was obviously because of his age, because his reflexes wouldn't have been,
Yeah.
you know, as quick as ours. So obviously he couldn't. He'll have just been panicking, wouldn't he? And
Yeah.
he'll have just, you know, foot on the accelerator, car just out of control.
I suppose if your legs are locked, what can you do?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
much you can do.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, even if it had been a manual car, it might have been better. I don't know.
It probably wouldn't be able to get up as much speed out of it,
Yeah,
because you would
yeah.
you only limits in first
Yeah.
gear, I guess.
Yeah. So,
But-
but yeah, a weird old day. So